Welcome. If you are joining us for the first time on our senior speaker series mini series, we actually host a series at Bricker Price Block, and with everything that's going on, we decided to go virtual. And so instead of our presenters coming to Bricker Price Block, I am now going to our presenters. And so today we are at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden, and I'm super excited. So I'm going to wait a little bit. There's my mom watching. Hi, Mom. Interesting enough, I had dental work done this morning, so if it looks like this side of my mouth isn't working as well, it's because of that. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, and I'll talk a little bit before I introduce our host for today. So like I said, this is a virtual mini series, and we just started out with 3 locations. 2 weeks ago, we were at the Iowa Quilt Museum, and then next week I'll be at the Dexter Museum. So I am so fortunate that I get to go to all these locations and get a personal tour, especially today, because the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden is actually closed indoors. And so I'm getting a personal tour, and it's awesome. And so I'm happy to take you guys along with me. And I'm super excited to hear all about this place. I've been here, I don't know if y'all know, but I'm an Earlham graduate, and actually our host is also. And I grew up coming here on field trips and all that stuff, but I haven't been here in a while, I will say. I've eaten here. I will say I've eaten lunch here. There's a nice little cafe here, but I haven't been here in a while. So super excited. So I think it's time, right? So we should kick it off. Here's our host. We're actually socially distancing, and she has her mask on. I had my mask on. I will say we're being very cautious. But our host today is Sydney Algreen-Hunter. When did you graduate? 2007 from Earlham, and now she lives around here, and we're hoping to bring her to Earlham, folks. I'm going to get her to come, come back, move back. So I'm super excited. She is the Assistant Director of Education here at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to her. I got to switch this around. Let's see if I know how to do this. I did it! You are live, Sydney.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me.
It's
I just have so much to tell you about today, so I had to type a few things up so that I don't forget some really cool facts. But as Alyssa was saying, my name is Sydney Algreen-Hunter. I'm the Assistant Director of Education here at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden. I am an Earlham graduate, graduated in 2007, and then I went on to Iowa State where I majored in forestry and Spanish. So my background is really in native plants and learning about Iowa's ecosystems and conservation and restoration. But since coming to the Botanical Garden, it's been so much fun because I've learned about plants from all delicious fruit like that would grow on a cactus, but it does. And we know that this plant is a cactus because it has a special part called an aerial, which is all along the base of the plant, and that's where the spines grow out. So all cactus have spines, and they have an aerial where they grow out. All right, we're gonna venture around the corner here and check out another plant. And Alyssa, if you just want to give them views of the space while we're walking around, you're welcome.
You guys didn't know that this is kind of my background, is being behind the camera. It's not typically being in front of the camera. So, how beautiful, guys. I will say the temperature is nice in here today. I've been here at like night and it's been humid, but man, this morning it is gorgeous in here. Look at this. Yeah. So cool.
Glad this series is early in the morning instead of in the afternoon, because it would really, really heat up in here. We'd be just out. So the next plant in our collections of our desert garden that I wanted to show you is our aloe vera plant. There are lots of different kinds of aloe. The only aloe vera has any medicinal properties. So you might be familiar with it because you may have gotten a gel or sunscreen and apply that when you have sunburn. And it can be cooling and calming. So this is our aloe vera plant. It has one nice bloom remaining here, this little flowers.
Oh, cool. I didn't know how to bloom. That's cool.
They don't usually bloom if you have one as a house plant at home because they need near perfect conditions. They're kind of picky bloomers, but they do have that really nice flower spike. So ours is pretty happy because it gets lots of sun. It's obviously warm in here all year round. So most of us know that the cool thing about aloe is that it does have this medicinal property. So I'll just snap off a piece of it. And right here from the leaf is this jelly, ooey gooey substance. It's kind of yellow on my finger. That's primarily what people use when they have a sunburn. That's where most of the medicinal property is. But if you break apart the leaf even more, it kind of is stringy. And that latex substance in the leaf, right there, that also has a medicinal property. So that's usually ingested. But you want to be careful, obviously, and follow all medical recommendations before you just go eating your aloe plant. So if you do have one at home, I would recommend just using that gel substance versus trying to ingest it yourself. Okay, we are going to take a trip now from our desert garden. We're going to go into more of the tropical area and see what lies ahead.
Super exciting. I will say, if you walk these little paths, if you're tall like myself, you may get hit in the face. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our chenille plant. It is a fan favorite. Kids love it, adults love it. So these things are the inflorescence or the flowers of the plant. They're very fuzzy. I was telling Alyssa earlier that I'm a really tactile person and I touch everything, even things I can't. But this is good one because you can touch it and it won't harm me. So I always have kids feel this. Alyssa, if you want to
Yeah, I'll feel it.
a little
I'll do it.
feel
That's nice.
super soft.
Oh yeah, super soft.
So,
That's really cool.
One thing I learned from another one of our staff members is that chenille is actually French for caterpillar.
Oh.
So these do look like fuzzy caterpillars, but it actually gets its name from the chenille fabric versus the insect.
Oh.
Still very beautiful.
Yes. Very soft.
We're going to go around the corner now and take a look at our edible plant.
Oh, edible. I didn't know that I had breakfast for me. This is a nice shaded area too.
It is shaded.
Very-
Much cooler.
Yeah, it's much cooler, yes.
So here we are in a certain part of our conservatory that we've dedicated to a lot of tropical edible
cool.
have several horticulturists who do some regular watering and training and take care of all the plants here on site. And one day they were getting back our ginger collection, and they harvested some of the root for us. So that's the edible part of the ginger plant. And I just left this on my desk. It's been drying since about January. And if you were here, I would scratch off a little bit of the surface, and then you would see that it does have that kind of yellowish color of ginger, and it also has that really nice, sharp, spicy, gingery smell. This one I noticed just this week is trying to grow. Plants are so resilient, this always impresses me. This has been in my office, which primarily just gets fluorescent lights, sitting on my desk, no soil, no water for months, and it is still trying to grow. That's fascinating.
Fascinating. Cool.
Oops, I don't know if you can smell it.
Yeah, let me
break a little piece for you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
potent.
Very
Yeah.
strong. I'm not a huge fan of ginger raw, but I know that it is good for upset tummy and things like that, and I like it in curries and things like that. So you could actually break this up and use it just like you would store-bought ginger, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
The next plant I wanted to share is one of our, again, another fan favorite, one that I love programming about because everyone loves chocolate. So this, I don't know how well you'll be able to kind of zoom in on this plant. I might just poke myself back there so you can.
Okay.
You can even see me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're going into the jungle here.
So right here.
Oh yeah.
This is our cacao tree, and the cacao tree is what produces chocolate. You probably can't see very well, but there are really small, dainty flowers leading all up and down the stem. I'm going to come out and show you what happens when those flowers bloom.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
Will be pollinated when they're in the wild by a tiny, tiny fly called a midge-fly, and then it will produce this. This is the cocoa pod. Inside of this is what makes chocolate. So it's kind of impressive. It gets this big after that teeny, tiny flower.
Wow.
Inside of this
Oh.
are our cocoa beans.
So cool.
And then if you were to break up those beans, you would get these cocoa nibs. So this is literally raw chocolate.
Oh wow.
And through kind of a lengthy process of drying and fermenting and cracking these open, you would get these raw nibs. And then you could mix that and melt it and grind it and get cocoa powder, or you could make it into a chocolate bar by adding in milk.
Very cool.
So the darkness of the chocolate always relates to the amount of cocoa nibs that are in it. And these, you can eat them raw. They're really bitter, but they do still have that little bit of a chocolatey flavor. Some people actually are starting to use these more now. It's like, we know that dark chocolate has antioxidants and it's good for you. Even better are raw cocoa nibs. So some people will throw these in smoothies or in milk.
Oh, yeah.
Or on top of yogurt. You can do that. You can buy them in like health food stores and things like that.
So when they're saying like a 70% cacao or whatever, they're saying 70% is these nibs. Oh, cool.
70% are those ground nibs, so it has less added milk.
Very cool.
Milk chocolate has a lot more added milk, and then actually white chocolate doesn't have any cocoa nibs in it at all.
Oh wow.
So kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
So that is our cacao tree,
Very cool.
and right next to that we have a small collection of our bananas. We
Oh,
have several different species of bananas, and they're these kind of tree-like structures. A lot of people think that bananas grow on trees, but they actually grow on one of the largest herbaceous plants, which just means that the stem isn't woody like it would be on a tree. It's actually the leaves just layering up and packing really tightly pressed up against each other. So you can see them peel off as you move up the
Kind of like corn, right?
It kind of looks like corn, yes. And Alyssa, I don't know if you can capture it, but we just have at the top of one of our bananas, the flower is just opening up. So she'll eventually pan up and you'll see this kind of purpley maroon structure hanging down. That's called the banana part. And if you can see a lighter color pressed against that, those are the flowers. So that's eventually what will turn into a banana. And we actually have harvested bananas and we do eat them occasionally. Some of our species taste better than others. So we have one species that tastes kind of like an apple. This is an I banana. It's got these really beautiful variegated leaves up there at the top. And I've not tried those, so I don't know how they'll taste. A fun fact about bananas, bananas are actually berries.
Oh.
So if you think of something like a strawberry or a raspberry, botanically speaking, those aren't berries at all. A banana, however, is a berry.
Wow.
So, fun fact for you, throw out some trivia.
Yeah.
Maybe on the next
Trivia.
Fresh trivia, they'll
There you
ask
go.
you that question and you'll know. The bananas are berries, strawberries are not.
Very interesting. I'm gonna do this because they can hear me really well, but they're struggling to hear you, but I want to keep our distance, so I'm just switching up our look. So if you guys can't hear, just let me know and we'll try to get as close as we can. So.
Okay. Well, we are going to go around the corner. You'll see a waterfall, and then we're going to stop at another plant. And I'll give you a clue. You can think about it while we're walking there. This is one of the fastest growing plants in the world.
Whoa.
So think about
I'm
what
excited.
that could be. Got the bag of tricks here.
Gotta get the waterfall. Very cool.
All right. So I'm going to try to sit a little ways away from the waterfall. But these trees that are just to my right, these are all of our bamboo stands.
Oh.
So bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants in the world. It can grow over 1.5 inches per hour,
Oh my gosh.
which is just crazy. So we oftentimes have to cut back our bamboo stand because it does grow so very fast. It's actually hollow in the center, which means it doesn't have to produce quite as much material to keep growing. But we have some new shoots that I wanted to see if Alyssa could get a close-up of. They are covered in these really fine dark hairs, which I thought would be really soft and that I could touch, and I was like, no, they'll stick to your fingertips and you couldn't touch them. So I wanted to point those out. They're right here. And all that dark stuff are actually small hairs growing on those young bamboo plants. Here's another one. It's really skinny.
That is really cool. Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna flip my camera to face you because I think that's what everyone's gonna see me sweating. Hold on, how do I move this? Oh, I'll just do this, right? Oh, don't fall out of there, phone. So you tell me, are you in?
I'm in.
Okay.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me better. I'll try and stand closer to you guys so you can. We're gonna go around the corner again and take a look at one of our largest and oldest plants in our collection here. So this plant right here that Melissa was kind of panning around, this is a fiddle leaf fig, really popular house plant right now. You can see just how tall they can get when they're in a really happy environment. Whoa. And we had just recently cut this plant down really, really short too, and it's grown up that much in just a couple of months. So it's very happy here. All right. This plant behind me is our traveler's tree. It is one of our original plants that was put in the conservatory, so it is at least 40 years old, but much likely older than that because we didn't get it as just a tiny first year plant. We got it as somewhat of a mature plant. So the traveler's tree is native to Madagascar, and it has a really interesting kind of folklore behind it. It's called a traveler's tree because there was a myth that as people were walking and traveling through Madagascar, they would stop and visit this tree and drink water out of the leaves. So if you can see, it forms kind of a fan towards the top.
Oh yeah, this one back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh cool. I don't know what you're seeing, but hopefully you're seeing it. Very cool.
And so those leaves, they kind of grow one after the other to create kind of a fan-like shape, collect water in between them. They can hold up to a quart of water in between each leaf. So the story is that travelers used to walk around and then drink water from this tree. We think it is mostly myth because, as you can see, it's pretty tall and kind of hard for them to access.
Very tall.
But someone who can easily access this tree is a lemur. And lemurs will hop from the tops of these different travelers' trees, and while doing that, they're kind of snacking on the flowers and the seeds, and then spreading pollen. So they are the primary pollinator for the traveler's tree, which is really interesting. We usually think of pollinators as more like butterflies and bees and some birds, but not giant mammals like a lemur. One really cool thing about the traveler's tree, once it's pollinated and the seeds start to grow, they're actually covered in a blue fibrous material. Bright blue, like royal blue, brighter than Earlham's school color blue, I would say.
Yeah.
So they're really beautiful.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah. Alrighty. Do we have time for a few questions right now? I guess
Yeah.
we could stop and pause and see, and then we'll move on.
Turning towards me, the sweaty mess. Yes, you can hear it now. Okay, good. So it was, the camera needs to face you. That makes sense, actually. So, do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Sydney, or have any questions about one of the plants, or coming here, or anything like that? She can take those questions. I'm just going to pan around while we wait, maybe. Thanks everybody for hopping on. This has been really awesome. I will say I am a sweaty mess. Like all of a sudden, I am a sweaty mess. Yeah, we'll get some shade. Oh, what's the temp inside? Somebody asked.
Oh, I should have checked. We could walk over there and do a quick...
Let's walk over there and we'll check. That's a great question, Mom. And yeah, when you come here, I do remember that growing up. When you come here, you can check. There's a little, what is it, thermometer?
Yes,
Yeah.
thermometer, and it tells us the humidity.
The humidity, that's, whoo.
Oh,
No.
it's not on right now. It can get up to like 110.
Holy cow.
in here, but the humidity is usually like,
I'm gonna,
the humidity,
is that on you?
no.
Okay. We're figuring it out. That you good? Sorry.
No problem. It's just COVID times, we're all figuring out how to do these things.
Yeah.
So the temperature, depending on how hot it is outside, it's almost always hotter in the conservatory. So if it's like 90 degrees out there, it's probably about 100 degrees inside in the conservatory. And the humidity is also usually a bit higher than what it is outdoors too. The other day we had for some reason our mister system wouldn't shut off, and so we were at about 97% humidity in here.
Oh my God.
It was very sticky.
Yeah. So once you do open up, people should be aware.
Yes.
It gets a little hot.
It gets warm in here. We do have a gardener's show house, which is a greenhouse that we converted to more of an exhibit space. It holds a lot of our collections, and that tends to be a little bit cooler, so it's a nice place to have a seat and relax. Yeah. Well, we're going to continue going on our tour. I've got just a couple more plants for y'all, so we'll walk back the way we just were. Be more shaded.
Now I'm going to turn around and see if we have any more questions. How many plants and trees are inside here? Do you have an estimate?
I do not have an estimate. There are so many. I mean, if Alyssa can get you just a view of the ground cover, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 more species just in ground cover in this one corner.
Yeah. So we're probably talking like thousands, right?
Thousands. I don't want to give an exact number, but I know that our overall collection in taxa is like over 30,000, I believe. It might be around 60-some thousand. It's always changing because we're collecting plants all the time, and then some are just going through their natural process and die out. But I want to say it's around 60,000 plants, indoors and outdoors.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
That big guy. Cool.
How are we on time?
We are doing well. It's about 10:30.
Oh.
You are doing good.
This next one's just a little bit of a walk around the
Okay.
corner. But it's well worth it.
Yeah, it's well worth the walk.
Okay, so the next plant I wanted to share with you all is my favorite plant in our whole collection, indoors and outdoors. Even though I'm a prairie girl at heart and I love our native plants, this plant is just so fascinating to me. So here, Alyssa can get a good shot of it. Oh yeah, those leaves that you're seeing right there, those are from a plant called a cycad. And a cycad is an ancient plant species that existed when dinosaurs were on this earth, which is just blows my mind. So, yeah, Alyssa noticed something really fun that I'll be sure to point out. So this plant was so prevalent when dinosaurs ruled the world that the Jurassic period is sometimes referred to as the period of cycads. And they probably were even eating them and munching on them as they were traveling around and looking for food, which I find just crazy.
Yeah.
But because of all the changes in the atmosphere and the dinosaurs dying out, the species that we have today are probably different than the ones that they were actually eating. We have several different species in our collection. This one right here behind me, you can see the leaves right there. This is one of the biggest cycads. It's called a giant dioon. And it can get up to 40 feet tall. But cycads are characterized by having kind of a short, stumpy wooden stem and then these palm-like leaves that you're seeing above my head. And they oftentimes on their leaves have little spikes and things that make them not so good for plant or animals to eat nowadays and would hurt us if we touched it really closely. But what's more interesting to me is kind of the pollination process. So these plants, because they are a prehistoric plant, they don't produce a flower to reproduce. They actually produce a cone that is very, very similar in looks to what a pine cone might look like. And our plant right here is male. We can tell whether a cycad is male or female based on the way the cone looks and the purpose of it. So we'll try and give you a shot of the cone. Our dioon is producing one right now. If you can see back in there, that white thing.
We hope you're getting it, folks.
So that is a young cone just forming. Our plant produces, the male one can produce cones maybe once or twice a year. And I'll show you one that we harvested, I think it was last winter.
Oh, cool. Wow.
So this is the male cone of the Dione spinulosum, or giant Dione. And you probably can't see, but Alyssa might be able to see as I'm turning it around, there's white, dusty stuff falling out. And on my hands, this is the pollen from this plant. So it's just super cool. It's long, it's covered in kind of a soft fuzz, and it's pretty lightweight. The female cone would be not quite as long, but almost, and maybe this much wider.
Oh, wow.
And it would weigh about 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So we did have a female cone. Our female cycad is just kind of across the trail from our male cycad. And it did produce a cone. We tried to preserve it, but there's so much fleshy, moist plant material inside of the cone that it just kind of turned to mush and got moldy, and we weren't able to preserve it. But it was so cool while it did. I mean, literally 30 pounds of plant material.
That's great.
Because it is so big and it is 30 pounds, that takes a really long time for that cycad to produce it, so we don't currently have one growing. It can take about 18 months for them to grow that full cone. We did save some of the scales from the cone though, and it's really, really fuzzy. I don't know how well that's showing. I think you can see. Really super fuzzy. And this is the underside. So there would be all these cones and they would fit together kind of like a puzzle, covering the core of the cone. Really fascinating. As I mentioned, we have other cycad species, and here are cones from some of those. They're much smaller, and so the plants are much smaller. Again, this is the giant. This is like the king of the cycads. And it usually grows naturally in places like Mexico, but you can grow them as annuals in containers or house plants. I've started to see cycads popping up in places just like Home Depot and Lowe's. So if you're really interested, you want a plant that existed when dinosaurs did, get yourself a cycad.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one more plant to share with you. I say the best for last. So let's go take a peek. I think there were a few questions on there, Alyssa. Do you wanna...
I'm gonna flip. You're gonna see me. Okay. Here we go. Do you have to trim or cut back on plants during seasons?
Yes,
Oops.
we do. Our horticulture staff is...
It's fine, folks. We just dropped the phone. This is
And
live.
we're back. So our horticulture staff are in here every single day, whether it's in the indoor garden or the outdoor garden, and they're constantly trimming and weeding and pruning and training plants to grow so that they'll produce fruit or more flowers and things like that. Fertilizing. One thing I should have said in the beginning is that we are a sustainable garden, and all the practices we use are natural or organic. So when we fertilize with a fish emulsion, which is kind of like, it smells really awful, honestly, but it's like fish poop, basically. Yeah.
And so when you are bringing plants in from somewhere, like what's that process like?
So usually when we bring plants in, if they're from a trusted vendor or greenhouse, then we can plant them right away, but we do have to be cautious about pests. Even our pest management, or as we call it, integrated pest management, is fully organic. So a lot of times we use good bugs to fight bad bugs. So in your own garden, for example, you might see aphids collecting on things like your milkweed, and you might notice that something like a ladybug will take care of those. And that's basically the same thing we do here in our garden to handle those pests, but also to make sure those new plants that are coming in don't have pests when we bring them. And that's one reason why a lot of people want to donate plants to us, or they want to bring in a plant for us to look at and diagnose what's going on. We have to be really careful with that, because if that had a really bad pest, it could wipe out a big portion of our collection.
Oh, wow.
And some of our species are quite rare. They're from lots of different countries and places around the world. We might be the only garden that has that particular species in the US at the time. So we just try and guard those and be extra cautious.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh.
Okay.
Look at
So I've got some goodies to show you guys. You may remember there was quite a bit of excitement here at the Botanical Garden in the summer of 2018. We had a corpse flower that bloomed. And this corpse flower that we had that bloomed was the Titan arum. It's one of the largest single stem inflorescence in the whole world of plants. So the largest flower on one single stem of plants in the whole world bloomed here at the Botanical Garden. On top of it being so large, it is also incredibly stinky, and that's how it gets its name, the corpse flower. The reason why these plants are stinky is to attract a pollinator. So they're not hoping for things like a bee or a really sweet hummingbird. They want those dung beetles. They want the flies that are attracted to really stinky things. So they produce a really smelly smell. Now our corpse flower is actually in a dormant stage, which I'll talk more about, but that's why I didn't show it to you today, because it's completely underground. There's no growing vegetation above ground. Corpse flowers, there are several different species out there. Most of them are native to tropical places, and they all start out as a corm, which is basically like a bulb. So here is a really large corm. It's maybe 10 or 15 pounds. And then there are smaller species that are tiny. So a corpse flower, it might produce a little tiny bulb or corm from its larger corm and reproduce that way. And that's what these are. These are little offshoots from a bigger corm. Now, as I was saying, the corm acts like a bulb, so it does have a dormant period, and that's where some of these are at. This plant is primarily dormant, but you might be able to see some new growth coming right there in different places. It's actually got its old bloom here. And here are some. This one is just starting to grow from that corm. It's going to have a leaf. So I'll show you a picture here. I don't know if we'll fit it in the whole frame.
See? You see it?
Yep. So this is the life cycle of the Titan arum. And the reason why our bloom was so special is because they don't do those very often. Like I said, they have a dormant period. And when they're not dormant, they have a vegetative state where they send up a leaflet. So this is all, although it looks like different leaves, it's all one leaf. They're called leaflets. And it'll last maybe a year or so, and then that will die back. And basically what it's doing is just bringing nutrients down into the corm to save up for when it can bloom again. Because the bloom is so very large, it has to store all of that nutrients in the corm to be able to just have enough resources to produce that giant flower. A full-grown Titan arum, which remember has the biggest bloom in all the plant world on a single stem, the corm of that plant can get to be about 200 pounds. So that's a lot of reserve energy in that bulb. This is actually one of our Titan arums. We had named her, actually the community named her Carrie, and this is one of her offspring. So when she bloomed, we did fertilize her. We got pollen from a plant in Missouri, and she produced seed that was viable. We grew some and kept some ourselves just so that we could learn from them and have more little Carries all around. But we did share some of those. I think some even went down into South America. So little Carries are going to be popping up all over the world. It'll be really interesting to see how they do out there. This is all that remains of Carrie's bloom. So this is part of the spike that comes up, and it would have been surrounded by something called a spathe, which is kind of like the petal of the flower. So you can see that here. here's that centerpiece, like right here on Carrie. And then here is that kind of petal-like structure. Inside of the petal-like structure is where the bad smell is produced. This is a different species than our Titan arum, so it will never get as big as Carrie. And this is very shriveled and dehydrated. In its full size, it was probably about that big. Yeah. Alrighty, those are all the plants I have to share with you today. Thank you so much to Bricker Price Block for allowing me to share this really cool special resource that we have in our community, the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden. I might flip it back to Alyssa and she can determine if we have time for any questions.
All right, let's see here, folks. Loving this so much. Sarah Gilmore Cummings said, so nice to see your face. So, so fun. Thank y'all so much for hopping on. I don't see any more questions. If you do, you know, feel free to reach out to me and I can pass it along to Sydney. There she is. I had so much fun. Gosh, I learned a lot today, which is always nice. You know, I'm always learning. And I'm also sweating my butt off. I will admit. I mean, look at this. This is part of it, though. It's totally worth it. So thank you so much to Sydney and the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden. This was so amazing. And once it opens up, we'll be sure to let you guys know. But like Sydney said, you can be outside and come to their little cafe. It's so cute. So I think that's it. We got what we got today. Everyone, from us, we will see you again. Join us next Friday for our third part of this series at the Dexter Museum. I'm pretty excited. Never been to the Dexter Museum and lived so close to it for so long. So that's all we have, and we'll see you next Friday.